What's up, everyone? Bob's Blu-rays here, and today I'm going to be participating in Tim Talks Talkies Top 25 80s Community Challenge. So he challenged the entire community to come up with a list of our top 25 80s movies, and then he's going to be doing 2 live streams on back-to-back nights for this community challenge. So stay tuned, and I'll get right into my list after this intro. So as I said, this is a top 25 community challenge for each and every person to rank their top 25 80s movies. My list is probably going to be a lot different than everyone else's, as everyone's will be, because it's your list. It's personal to you. So don't worry about what's on my list. If you hate some of the titles on my list, that's okay. Make your own list, and that's all that matters is what's on your list. Focus on your list, love your list, and enjoy what's on your list. This is my list. This is what I enjoy. These are movies that I grew up with, stuff that people will question, stuff that people might not like, stuff that people may love. You'll see a bit of everything on here, from horror to classics to your independent movies that nobody else has heard of. So I hope you enjoy my list. Hope you enjoy the video if you stay tuned the whole time. So like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into it. And let's start with number 25. My number 25 is going to be Over the Top. Now, I could have probably added a couple movies over this, but I just recently rewatched this about a month or two ago, right before he did this challenge, and I still love this movie. Is it the best movie in the world? No, of course not. It's about arm wrestling. But I love Sylvester Stallone. I loved everything he was in basically in the 80s. And my dad told me about this movie. I ended up buying it. I watched it. I've seen it multiple times. I just love this movie. A lot of movies that you'll see on this list are going to be Sylvester Stallone or movies that my dad showed me, because a lot of the 80s are nostalgia to me. And it's just, yeah, very nostalgic time. And yeah, I'm just going to be pulling a lot of that stuff. So Over the Top is number 25. Love this movie. Love Sylvester Stallone. It's got a great father-son dynamic in it, and I don't know what's there not to love about this movie. It's got plenty of cheese, and if you're not into that, then you're probably not going to enjoy Over the Top, but I love it. So that is my number 25. Number 24 will be Flashdance. Now, once again, went back and forth. I just rewatched this once the Steelbook came out, and still love it. It's just such a good movie. I love the music. I absolutely love Jennifer Beals in this. It's just a great one. I just watched this probably 4 years ago for the first time, and I remember talking to my dad about it, and I was just super excited to call him and tell him I had watched this. And it's one that I didn't grow up with either. So these last two I pulled, I didn't grow up with them, but I still absolutely love them. So number 24, Flashdance. All right. Number 23 will be The Blob remake. I also didn't grow up with this one, but I love this movie. I watched it for the first time a couple of years ago when I had checked out the Scream Factory release, which is this one right here, and I thought the practical effects were absolutely incredible. It's so much fun. I love Shawnee Smith in this, and it's just a ton of fun. This movie's a blast from start to finish. The action starts pretty quick, and it's a ton of fun. So The Blob is number 23 for me. I highly recommend this to all horror fans out there. All right, number 22 is going to be The Lost Boys. I absolutely love The Lost Boys. I watched it when I was younger, didn't remember much about it, got the 4K, decided to check it out again, and loved it. Had such a blast with it. It's iconic, it's fun, it's a blast. I can't have a top 25s list and not use The Lost Boys. So I'm going The Lost Boys, number 22. Have a blast with that every time I watch it. Number 21 will be Dirty Dancing. I haven't rewatched this in probably a couple, maybe a year or so, 2 years, but I couldn't think of doing a top 25 and not putting this on there. I had about 50 movies on the list, got it down to 25, got it down to like 32 actually, and then eventually 25. I love Dirty Dancing. I have a fun time with it. It's a classic. You can't put baby in a corner. So, yeah, that's going to be my number 21 right there, Dirty Dancing. Number 20, I actually had a hard time realizing I thought I didn't own this, and I was like, I just rewatched this a couple years ago. How did I watch it? And I realized, oh, I have a digibook of it. So The Terminator is going to be my number 20. I enjoy The Terminator so much. I think it's a great movie. It's excellent. One of James Cameron's best. It's the first one in that Terminator franchise. It sets up Terminator 2, and Terminator 2 to me is better, but I absolutely still love the Terminator. It is one of the better or best, one of the best 80s action movies out there, so you can't do a list and not have the Terminator on there. So that is my number 20. Number 19, another Sylvester Stallone title here. This is going to be Cobra. I just rewatched this like the other night and wanted to make sure it would still make my top 25. Look, this isn't the world's greatest movie, but it is loaded with action. The last 30 minutes is just ridiculously nonstop action. It's so much fun. Stallone is a blast in this movie. Everything Stallone does, like I said, I absolutely almost love. It's a blast. Cobra is so much fun. If you are into action, you will love this movie. It's almost like a slasher in a way. It's got slasher-esque elements to it. It's a fun time. Cobra is a blast. Love everything about Cobra. I mean, I literally think that is just, it's a blast. It's like a perfect action movie to me. Lock Up is going to be the next one up. This is number 18. I am a huge fan of Lock Up. Just rewatched this, I think, in like January, and loved this movie. I love it every time I watch it. It's great. And my dad showed me this when I was younger, so this is one that I kind of grew up with. Lock Up's a blast. I think the 4K looks great. It's just an excellent movie. A lot of fun, really good story, and it's one of the better, if not best, prison movies out there. Definitely one of the better prison movies out there, so I love Lock Up. All right, number 17. You knew I was going to have a raunchy comedy, or at least Porky's on my list. I love Porky's. Grew up with this movie, watched it over and over again. My dad showed me this one when I was pretty young, probably way too young to be watching Porky's. Mom didn't approve, but my dad was okay with it. So I love Porky's. I have a fun time with it. There's actually, it's got more to it than just raunchy comedies and 80s and boobs and all that stuff. People don't understand that there's definitely some good social commentary in this movie as well, but just a little bit, but it's easy to miss it. But it's a lot of fun. This movie's hilarious. If you're easily offended or you hate raunchy comedies from the 80s, everyone's going to hate this movie, but I love it. I know I have a lot of friends that love this movie. It made Adam's top 25 list, and him and I both love this movie. We talk about it on a monthly basis, and it will never get old to neither one of us. And I know other friends of mine are a big fan of Porky's. Number 16 is going to be The Thing. This was on Tim Talkie's very first horror community challenge that he did, and this was number 1 overall. This was the very number 1 pick. It did not even make my top 25 horror list. I kind of forgot about it, actually, and I think it probably would have been right up there. Something you just forget about. I was kind of in a rush doing that list, so I really wanted to make sure I thought out the next couple lists that I did for him, and for that challenge, and I love The Thing. I just had a chance to rewatch it, I believe in October, so I think I rewatched this after Tim's challenge, and I was like, yep, this probably would have made my list. The practical effects are second to none in this. It's awesome. It moves at a really good pace, and John Carpenter's probably at definitely one of his best in this. Kurt Russell's perfection in this, and it's got such a great ending. Love everything about The Thing. All right, number 15 is going to be another John Carpenter movie, Christine. And this is just, to me, a little bit better than The Thing. It's honestly my favorite John Carpenter movie. It's better than Halloween for me, personally. I love everything there is to love about Christine. I think it's great. I love the characters. It is fun. It's got an incredible score. The story is really good. I love everything about Christine. Honestly, this is, and I'm not even a big, for one, I'm not a huge car guy, but I'm also not into like spirits or like evil presence and things like that. Like, cars take demonic stuff, like cars taking over, control and stuff. I'm usually not into something like that. That's why it took me so long to get around to watching this. But I am so glad I did, because I love this movie and I love every time I watch it. It's a blast. All right, number 14 is going to be Youngblood. Now, I just rewatched this. Didn't pay overly close attention to it, but I've seen this enough to know that this is absolutely top 25 stuff for me. I love Youngblood. I grew up with this at a very young age. I remember having it on VHS. I remember the DVD, and now the Blu-ray from Kino Lorber. I love Youngblood. I love Cynthia Gibb, Rob Lowe, Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze. It's got an awesome cast. You also got Ed Lauder, I believe is how you pronounce it in this. I believe he passed away, but he's awesome in this movie as the coach and Cynthia Gibb's father. This movie kicks ass. It is so much fun. Is it the best of the 80s? No, of course not. But to me, it's on my list because it's iconic, it's nostalgic, and it's so much fun. And I love the end, and I love all the fight scenes with the hockey, and it's just a blast. This movie's fun from start to finish, for me at least. Number 13 is going to be Can't Buy Me Love. I love this movie. My dad showed it to me when I was a lot younger. It's one of my dad's all-time favorite movies. I remember him telling us that as a kid. I probably wasn't even 10 or 11 years old when I saw this. I think we watched it. He wanted to show me and my sisters the movie, and had a blast with this movie. It's a very important message about being yourself. It's romantic, it's funny, it's dramatic at times, and it's a blast. Honestly, love this movie. It is 80s to a T, and it needs a Blu-ray release. Doesn't have one, but I'm happy to have the DVD. Like I said, I love this movie. I'm a huge fan of Can't Buy Me Love. One of my favorite 80s movies, obviously. It's on my list for a reason. So Patrick Dempsey, and I believe her name was like Amanda Peterson, and she went off the rails after this, but she passed away as well. But yeah, I love Can't Buy Me Love. Huge fan of it. So that is my number 13. Now, number 12 is a movie that I don't own. It's the first one on my list, first of 3 that I actually don't own on my 80s list. It is a movie called Mischief. It does not have a Blu-ray release, only a DVD release. Mischief is from the 1980s, of course, and it is kind of, some would call it a ripoff of Rebel Without a Cause. I'd say it's more kind of inspired by Rebel Without a Cause, and it knows exactly what it's trying to be, and it's okay trying to be inspired by Rebel Without a Cause. They clearly have moments where, I believe at one point or 2 points in the movie, they talk about Rebel Without a Cause. It is a blast, and I just rewatched Rebel Without a Cause, and I honestly like Mischief more. Mischief is a blast from start to finish. I love the characters. It's so much fun. So much fun. It's one of my favorite 80s movies, of course. It is hilarious. I honestly laughed my ass off watching this movie. I just watched it for the first time, too, a couple of years ago. Kelly Preston's in it. I love the cast, like I said. It's fun. It's funny. It's heartfelt at times, and it's just a blast. It's a good time. I can't do an 80s list. I love this movie, and I just rewatched it in December with my buddy, and he enjoyed the heck out of it, too. It was his first time watching it, so had a blast with it again. Every time I watch it, I have a blast with it. I need a Blu-ray in my life of this movie, and I definitely need to find it on DVD at some point. So that is going to be my number 12. Number 11 is going to be Roadhouse. I love Roadhouse. Absolutely love everything about this movie. It kicks ass. It is just action-packed. It's Swayze at his best, if you ask me. It's fun. It's just everything about this movie is enjoyable. It's 80s cheese as well, and I will eat it up all day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Love Roadhouse. Love everything there is to love about Roadhouse. Swayze kicks ass, man. All right, my number 10, on to top 10 80s movies for me, is going to be Cocktail with Tom Cruise. This is one of, if not my favorite Tom Cruise movies. I wouldn't say it is my favorite Tom Cruise movies, but it is probably top 5, top 3 maybe. I have been watching a lot of Tom Cruise movies lately, and I've become a huge fan of Tom Cruise this year in particular. Top Gun Maverick, of course, and just other stuff, Mission Impossible series that I had finally checked out. But Cocktail's so good. I watched it for the first time a couple years ago. Then I rewatched it again quickly after that with my dad, and he remembered seeing it but didn't remember much about it. We both loved rewatching it, and then I watched it again like last year because I just can't get enough of this movie. I love it. I think it's got just a great ending as well. It's a bit romantic if you're into that. It's dramatic for sure. It's pretty funny, and he just kicks ass as a bartender. And Tom Cruise pours his heart and soul into his work, and I think it's evident from even at a young age in Cocktail. So huge fan of Cocktail. Elizabeth Shue is gorgeous in this movie. Cocktail is awesome. That is number 10 for me. Number 9 is another one that I don't own. It's got a DVD release only. I could not believe I don't have this. I went looking for it and I was like, wait, where is it? I don't have the DVD. I swore I did, but I swear I guess I don't. But my number 9 is going to be Less Than Zero. Robert Downey Jr., Jamie Gertz, and others in this movie. And Less Than Zero is so good. It is not funny. It's not a comedy. It is a complete drama, and it is very dramatic and very heartbreaking and very blunt, in your face, and I loved everything there is to love about Less Than Zero. I watched it as a kid. My dad showed me this movie, and I never forgot it. It is all about drugs and pretty much a friend just doing what he can to help his other friend. And it's heartbreaking. It is heart-wrenching. It is so good, and it hits close to home for me. It hits close to home for my dad. And Robert Downey Jr. as well, because he was going through drugs at the time he made this movie as well. So I love Less Than Zero. Huge fan of Less Than Zero. I think it is a very underrated and underappreciated movie. So that is my number 9. Number 8 is going to be Tough Turf. Now, once again, I'm getting into stuff that people are like, what? I understand, but, you know, this is my list. It's what I love. It's movies that I grew up with. This is one that I remember seeing as a kid, younger. My dad showed me it. And then Kino put it out, and I thought I was watching it for the first time, and when I turned it on, I realized I had seen this movie. But it was something that I had forgotten about, and I loved it. And I love showing other people this movie that I know will enjoy it. I recommend movies to people that I know they'll enjoy. I'm not somebody who just recommends everything to somebody, because there's something for everybody, you know? And I watched this not too long ago with a couple friends, and they all enjoyed it. And I figured they would. But Tough Turf is a blast. You got Kim Richards in this, gorgeous. James Spader as well. I love Tough Turf. Huge fan of it. One of those bullying 80s movies that I just love. You'll see more bullying movies on my list. I just love the 80s, and I loved like movies, action movies, and I loved, you know, those teenage bullying type of revenge movies and all that stuff. So Tough Turf had to make the list. I'm in love with it. I could have swapped Tough Turf and this for this is my number 7. We got Class of 1984. First time I watched this was when Scream Factory put it out. I had blind bought it probably just a couple of years ago, and I saw it came with a slip still, and I was like, I gotta have it. And then I went home and I watched it. Absolutely loved this movie. I loved every second about it, and I've rewatched it several times since, and I've showed other friends, and they've enjoyed it as well. And it's not too much different than Tough Turf. The two go hand in hand. It's a good double feature. But Class of 1984 has an awesome ending. I loved everything about this movie, though. I did, and it's something that I didn't even grow up with. So to say I like this movie now, it's still fun to me. It was still a blast. And like I said, didn't even see it until a couple of years ago for the first time. But Class of 1984 is awesome. Such a great movie. The bullies are great in this. They do such a good job. You want to hate them. And it just has an awesome ending, an awesome conclusion. Just wait until that goes down. It's a blast. It's a good time. It really turns into kind of like a bit of a horror gore fest type of action movie. So it is good stuff. All right, My number 6 is going to be another Stallone. We've got First Blood. I love First Blood. Is it my favorite 80s movie? Of course not. It's my number 6 on this list. But I wouldn't even say I enjoy this necessarily more than some of the other ones that I pulled, but I think this is one of the best made 80s movies. I think it's incredible. I think it's a near masterpiece as far as from acting to writing to directing and everything about this movie. Stallone's performance in the very end where he gives that monologue and he talks about coming home from the war and everything like that is just something that it just never gets old. It's such a good monologue. It's so well written, and I love everything about it. I think he deserved a Academy Award nomination for this performance, and I love First Blood. I think it's just an excellent movie from really start to finish. It's so well made. First Blood is awesome. Awesome movie. Absolutely love it. All right, into my top 5. My number 5 is going to be Scarface. Now, I did just rewatch this about a year or two ago, and it's obviously very long, near 3 hours long, but it's also a near masterpiece, if you ask me. If not a masterpiece, Scarface is awesome. It is incredible. It is a remake of, I believe, the 1932 Scarface, which I have also seen and is really good as well. But this Scarface kicks ass. I believe 1983, and it's so much fun. It's so action-packed. It's violent. It is such a good story, and you see the rise and fall of Al Pacino in this movie, and everything about it is great, and it's got like an amazing conclusion, a climax, last 45 minutes, last 30 minutes, but really everything about this movie, Al Pacino gives one of the best performances you'll ever see. It's excellent. Everybody's pretty much probably seen Scarface by now. All right, my number 4 is something that was a blind buy. I also didn't grow up with. Watched it because Criterion put it out, and I fell immediately in love with that, and we've got Bull Durham. This is probably, I would say, probably my favorite baseball movie. One of my favorite sports movies, top 5, top 10. But sports movies are usually up there in my top 5 favorite movies because I love the inspirational movies, things like that. And I appreciate all the cheese in these sports movies. But Bull Durham is funny. It's well made. Obviously, Criterion put it out. And most people would say Criterion's like the, cream of the crop. So they only put out good titles or whatever. You get what I'm saying. But Criterion put this out, and it was the first time I had watched it. I'd love to see it on 4K. I'd upgrade it. You've got Kevin Costner, one of my favorites. Tim Robbins. I think this was my first or second introduction into Tim Robbins. Didn't really know who he was, but I thought he was hilarious in this, annoying at first, and then I fell in love with his character, and he's one of those, just everything about this movie is perfect. It is an awesome baseball movie. It's so much fun. It might, so it starts fast, and it starts really funny, and it might not be quite as funny throughout, but it just never loses its steam, if you ask me. It's just a blast. It's a total blast. From start to finish, honestly. So, near perfect movie, if you ask me, and one of my favorites, like I said. So this is my number 4. We got Bull Durham here. All right, my number 3 is going to finally be Back to the Future here. So this is top 3 for me. This is something that I actually did not grow up with either. This is one that I had just watched last year, probably in November or maybe September or something like that last year for the first time. Watched all 3 of them back to back to back. I wasn't the overall biggest fan of the second one. I thought it was a lot of the same of the first. Now, granted, I went back to back. Maybe if I watched them when I was younger, I would have felt differently. So I just felt like I was watching the same movie. But Back to the Future, the original one, love it. I had so much fun with it. And this is coming from somebody who didn't see it when I was, younger in the 80s. When this came out, but I loved it. Loved every single second about it. It was so much fun. It's funny. It is just a perfect movie. It's so well directed. It's got a good soundtrack. Everything about this movie is great. and it's just a blast from start to finish. I do remember seeing parts of it when I went back and watched it for the first time last year. I definitely remember parts of it. I might have even seen it when I was probably like 3 or 4 years old, but overall, this was pretty much a first-time watch, and I had so much fun with it. I can only imagine how much better it would even be if I grew up with it, but I couldn't remember it, so still a blast. Still had such a fun time with Back to the Future. Can't get enough of that movie, and I'm already looking forward to rewatching that again someday. All right, my number 2 is going to be The Karate Kid here. I love The Karate Kid. It is something I grew up with. It was iconic. It was a movie that I watched all the time. Loved having it on VHS. I remember being like 7 or 8 watching this for the first time, and I loved it. I loved everything there is to love about it, like I've been saying on repeat during this video, but I had a blast with The Karate Kid. It's so much fun. It is just 80s to a T. It's 80s at its finest. For the longest time, I thought everyone loved The Karate Kid, but I started to hear people kind of not speak so highly of this movie. Some people don't like Ralph Macchio in it. I can start to see that, why people didn't, but overall, this movie's still a blast. It's relatable. You know, I got bullied a bit in high school. I love everything there is to love about The Karate Kid, and it's just great stuff. Karate Kid's awesome. It can't be without my top 5. My number 1, though, my number 1 overall movie from the 80s, it is something I don't own. So if anybody has a copy of the 4K Steelbook or 4K Media Books that they put out of these recently that is willing to part ways with it, I will buy it off you. I prefer not to pay eBay prices for it, but if I have to, I will. I want this movie. I'm ready to sell a kidney for it. I need Bloodsport in my life. Van Damme, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport, 1988, I believe. I love everything there is to love about Bloodsport. This was something, it didn't go on my Rad 9, but it is something that I grew up probably watching more than any other movie. I think I wore the VHS out. I remember it so vividly. It was at my grandmother's house. Seeing this on VHS, it might have been one of the reasons I fell in love with collecting. And I remember, I don't even think I owned VHS. I must have been 5 or 6 at the time. And I saw this VHS at her house, and along with some other VHSs she was collecting. And I remember putting this in and falling in love with Bloodsport. I could talk about this movie for hours. Adam recently sent me a video while he was watching it. He has the double pack of it with Time Cop. And I believe it's Time Cop, the double pack. I don't have that. I really want the 4K. I've heard the transfer is amazing from Nick and many other people, and I just need that 4K. I need the Steelbook, or I definitely need that Steelbook in my life. So if you have an extra one, let me know. But Bloodsport, it is 80s cheese and iconic 80s. Everything there is to love about Bloodsport. It puts a smile on my face. It makes me happy. Adam sent me a video, and I was like, I could hear the ooh, ah, ooh. Like, it's just so good. So good. It's so good. I love Bloodsport. And when he sent me that video, we just started talking about it for like a half hour. I was like, it makes me want to go home and watch that, but I don't own it. And this was just recently. So I need to rewatch Bloodsport. It's probably been about maybe anywhere from a year to 3 years since I've rewatched it. But I wore it out as a kid. I wore it out. The Kumatai. Oh my goodness. Everything there is to love about it. He had like this Frank Dukes. He had the strongest or the fastest kick. He had the fastest knockout in the Kumite. Oh my goodness. Bloodsport. What's not to love? I hope to see some love for that movie from some other people out there. I've got to get around to watching some other 80s videos. I haven't watched too many of them, so I'll probably watch a lot more now that I've finished my video. Life gets busy, and it's hard to keep up with everyone's content on YouTube. I do apologize, But I want to say I appreciate everyone who watched this video. I appreciate everyone who watches all of my other videos as well. It's obviously not required to watch me or anybody else, but I appreciate any of the support I get because whether it's 1 or 100 watching, thank you so much. And I see the people who watch all my videos. They're in the comment section chiming in. And I know there's others who are watching that don't comment on our videos. There's plenty of people that don't comment, but they watch. They're watching on their TV or whatever. So thank you to all of you who watch. You know who you are. I appreciate it. Seriously, I hope it doesn't go unnoticed. I hope you know how much I appreciate it. I hope my appreciation is well put out there. But thank you so much. I always enjoy reading the comments, always enjoy seeing the comments, things like that. So thank you so much, and would love to hear your comments in the comment section. Did you think my list is terrible? Did you like my list? Are you surprised by some of the titles? Were you happy with it? What are in your top 25? Did you put out a video? If so, let me know, and then that way I could definitely go check it out. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you again for the millionth time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to hit the like button if you did, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Go check out Tim's original video. If you're watching this the day I put it out, I think this is the last day to get a video in or your list in. So make sure to get a list over to Tim Talks Talkies, and be sure to check out his live stream for the results, which will probably be around August 11th, 12th, or 13th, something like that. It's going to be a Friday and Saturday night, back-to-back nights. So be sure to check that out. But that's enough rambling. Thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, have a great day.